A couple months ago, we put this video out on our socials and you all went crazy for the iPhone drum sound. Ever since then, I've been intrigued to take this format a step further and up the ante with some more products. So let's go record a drum kit with no mics, just Apple products. Okay, so we're at the studio and first things first, I'm going to remove everything that I don't need. So last time we just had one iPhone in the middle here, but this time we're going to have a different device on each individual part. So we're going to have an old iPhone recording the kick, we're going to have an Apple Watch recording the snare, and another Apple Watch recording the hi-hat. So let's get these set up using some Gorilla tape to sort of hold everything in place. So on this iPhone, I've gone into settings and turned off compression, and the same with the new watch. The old watch, I can't do that, but maybe it'll make things interesting. So we're going to play with the actual placement of these devices and see what it sounds like when we move them around the room a little bit. Okay, so this is the kick on the iPhone at the front. This is the snare on the Apple Watch Pro. And this is the hi-hat on an old Apple Watch Series 4. Let's see what it all sounds like together. Okay, I think it sounds pretty good, but it would sound better if we dampen it a bit. So maybe like tea towel and tape the snare up a bit to get a bit more of a tight sound. So let's try that out. Okay, so tea towel on the snare, we've got the hi-hat taped up a little bit more so we can try and get a bit more of a dead sound to control it a bit more. Even though this room sounds pretty good, I just know that it's going to sound a little bit flabby when I get it home. So let's see if this sounds any better. Okay, so we're back home now in the studio and I've imported the files into Ableton, cleaned them up a little bit, and I've also turned them into MIDI because now I know it might come as a shock to some of you, but I'm not actually a drummer. So here's the kick, here's the snare, and here's the hats. If we take a look at each individual layer, the kick drum, let's have a look at what we can do with it. So I've already sort of got a bit of a chain here. The first thing that I would do is I'm going to rein the sustain all the way down, because one thing that we didn't have much control with was the ability to sort of get inside the drum the way that a kick mic typically would. So I've pulled the sustain all the way down, and that's going to get rid of all the room noise. And I've increased the attack slightly. Now this gives us a much tighter sounding kick. Already a lot better. Okay, now I've done a little bit of EQ here. It's nothing too crazy. I've shelved off some of the top end, but I've actually kept some at 3K because I want it to be a little bit more clicky. And I've rolled off some of the real sub stuff from about 20 and below. And I've done a boost at 150, close to the fundamental frequency that the iPhone could pick up, and just dipped again around about 350 to 60 range. So let's have a listen to with and without this. This is one of those plugins that is, possibly decades old, but it is still the GOAT in achieving really, really warm sub-frequency enhancement. So what this is doing is, at 33 Hertz, I'm basically creating artificial subharmonics to try and make the kick appear beefier than it actually is. Without. Huge difference, huge difference. Okay, onto the snare. I'm doing the same thing with the snare. I'm just going to pull the sustain all the way down and increase the attack slightly to get more snap and get rid of the room sound that the iPhone sort of picks up a little too well, if I'm honest. Already really, really tight. I have sort of tightened it up a little bit in the simpler here as well. So we have a much better sample to work with. Again, with the EQ, I've just done two simple moves. I've got rid of some of the mud and the information I don't really need, and boosted some of the highs, which looks like a lot, but if we remember what we're working with, it's necessary. quite flat and dull. Finally, the hi-hat. Noticing a theme here, transient shaper, pull down on the sustain of the room's ambience, that really I didn't need, and a little bit of Pro Q goes a long way for the hats. Before. So if we have a look at the drum bus, I'm using the stock drum bus plugin from Ableton. I'm using an Arturia VCA 65 because it's really sort of snappy. Then I've got Tape Mellify from Arturia, and this is just to make it feel a little bit more vintage, and I do love what this does. And then we've got some glue compression, followed by some more saturation. And we can feel the squeeze from that saturator. And lastly, a teeny tiny bit of OTT goes a long way. Okay, this is sounding nuts. For iPhones and Apple products, this is actually crazy. And they're not even new Apple products, they're old Apple products. So what's the actual point in this video? Will I stop using drum mics? No. But the bigger message is don't let restrictions hold you back. You don't need a top-of-the-range laptop, interface, and mic to create hits. You know, you can do some really cool things if you have a couple of plugins and a phone and have some creative ideas. So give it a try. And if you stuck it around till the end, I'm going to give you the samples that I created in this video completely free to use wherever you want, and you'll find them at the link in the description. And I'll see you next time.